Welcome to Viewer's Choice, everybody. We're starting early. They don't know. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to look at 2 and/or 3 games today from the viewers. The first one is from club member Orlando, who's not here. That's weird. And he sent me several pages of one game. I did a lot of work. And actually, at some point in the game, he said Sarawan says this and Sarawan says that. So I guess he analyzed the game with Sarawan. Yeah, so okay. So this is Orlando versus R Manley, who I'm sure you all know, like you know him, and that's about it. And then Manley's 1525 plus tax, and Orlando was 1400 plus tax. And Orlando's white, and this was played at the Missouri Open December 11th, 2 days after Tony Rich's birthday. Coincidentally, 2 days after Nakamura's birthday. Okay, so Orlando played E4, and they played a Caro-Kann. Now, as all of you know, there was a game played 2 days ago, possibly yesterday, between Norway and Russia in the World Team Championship. The Norwegian played here, which I've seen lately, and the Russian played here. Okay, and then I was like, is this my chess camp or is this the World Championship? You know, I couldn't tell. And then black won eventually. Orlando's game didn't go that way. Okay, but that's a true story. Okay, instead they played like normal people, so they must be lower rated. And then E5 was played by Orlando. I remember Orlando played the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann against Arjun on Saturday and was crushing Arjun and then lost. So I guess he always plays the advanced variation. Now, who can raise their hand and tell me the 2 most common moves for black? You with the right answer.
F5 and C5?
Correct. And I've played them both. And here, Matthew played the one that's less popular, C5.
You waste the tempo.
Exactly. White also moved his pawn again. In fact, I believe neither player knew how the minor pieces moved, so that's why the game went like this. I was proven to be correct next move. Now, C3 is an unusual move, which I faced once, and it was in a blitz game here at the club, and my opponent was Nigel Short. And he played C3 and beat me, although C3 is not a good move. But in a blitz game, anything is good. DC5 is a common move. Nothing wrong with that. And I've played C4 in this position because I also don't know how the minor pieces move. And I beat, I think, Nolan Hendrickson, but it could have been somebody else. I just beat Nolan Hendrickson so often, I just say it, and it's probably right. Okay, so he played C3. So as Grandmaster Ken West pointed out, to his chagrin, black has wasted a tempo with C6, C5. And as a result, if this was an advanced French defense, black's pawn would already be on E6. But since the pawn's not on E6, he has an opportunity to move his bishop, probably to H3 Shirov style. Did you get that at home at least? Yeah, okay. Okay, so now black proved he knew how the pieces moved, knight C6. And here, Orlando wrote that his next move is inaccurate, or as the Germans would say, inelegant. So he thinks bishop E3 is correct because you want to stop your opponent from pinning your knight since your knight's not there. That would be a bad move. Okay, I guess I agree somewhat. So knight F3 was played. Black traded on D4, which normally we don't want to play too early because it gives white the chance to play knight C3, which is illegal with the pawn on C3. In fact, in a lot of openings where white's playing C3 and then D4, which sounds good, you can't play knight C3 due to its illegality. But if they're going to trade on D4, then you got everything. Now, having said that, I mean, at some point, white's going to take a pawn and be up a pawn. So, yeah. Okay, so he traded. Maybe you should play bishop G4 first. I don't know. And here, bishop G4 is the normal move and was recommended by Orlando. And he wrote bishop F5 was actually played. Okay. Now, when I teach chess to my private students, I often explain to them that when the queen bishop moves out, often B7 is weak, and we can try to punish black. And when you don't move your bishop out, your bishop never moves. So basically you should stop playing chess. It's too hard. Okay, that Mario was complaining earlier that, and you were there, complaining to you, I think, he's saying that his bishop, the white squared bishop is often not very good. And I didn't have the heart to tell him the truth. Okay, so, which was a lot more than what he said. Okay, so white tried to punish black immediately and played queen b3 with the idea of queen b7. And Orlando wrote, he thinks black should play queen d7 here, defending his pawn. Okay, and his opponent played rook b8. And he thought the rook was strange on b8. Yeah, I agree. Okay, you with some crazy comment.
Does knight to a6 also work?
Yes, knight a6 is actually best because it moves illegally and confuses your opponent.
I mean a5.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Okay, knight a5 is legal, but you want to know if it's good? That's beyond my understanding. I mean, I don't want my knight on a5, but okay, it stops queen takes b7. If I checked you and you played queen d7, you would hang your knight. If you played bishop d7, you would hang this pawn. King d7 is illegal. That knight c6 would lose your pawn again. So I don't know, probably it's not right for black.
Okay.
Probably. Yeah. Okay, rook b8 is not where you want your rook, but that's life. Knight c3 makes sense, e6 makes sense, bishop e2 makes sense. Most weaker players, like you guys, like to play here and trade off your good bishop. Good job. Okay, don't do that. All right, bishop e2, knight g e7. Well, it's a little cramped here for black. Now, in the short Caro-Kann, which this is looking like, and I'll explain what that is. So in the advanced Caro-Kann, if you played bishop f5, which is the normal move, and you were playing chess in the 1970s and 1980s, then your games went like this. And then around 1995, nobody did this anymore. I actually don't know why. Okay? So probably if you did that with a white, your opponent would be like, what? If you memorized every game from the 1990s, you'd win. Okay. Nigel Short never did that. He played knight f3, and then he played bishop e2, and then he castled. And that was called the short variation because he played it every game. And everybody else was playing g4 and f4 and h4 and moving their arms wildly. Okay, and then one of the ideas that black had was to put the knight here eventually. And then if you move the bishop to either e4 or g4, one of these squares, then your knight could go to f5. Okay, or you could play knight h6. And I can't take it back. Wow. Okay, so yeah, so this position actually reminds me of that. This reminds me of the short variation because black played bishop f5 and yeah. Yeah, and basically black's taken on d4 very early. This could actually come from the short variation. This could come from just bishop f5 at move 3. Okay, so weaker players like to play knight g6 and lose their bishop on f5 and have their knight attacked. Some stronger players will play knight c8 and knight b6. And some will move their bishop to somewhere and then play knight f5. So we'll see what happened. I don't remember. I'm old. Okay, bishop g5, then the knight's probably not moving. And he wrote a long note. White's reluctance to position his bishop on e3 will soon turn into a piece of driftwood. Wow. Sarawan was critical of my choice, insisting bishop e3 was better. Okay, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, probably of all the pawns on the board, this d4 pawn's the weakest because another pawn can't defend it and it's already being attacked. So bishop e3 would defend it more. Bishop g5 is going to get harassed, so I don't know if that's the safest. Okay, h6 was played. Then he played bishop h4 question mark according to him, although I would assume if somebody played bishop g5, they wouldn't change their mind. So that's what people do. Okay, now Orlando writes black should play g5 and bishop g7. That makes sense to me. Got all his pieces out. The bishop on g3 is not very active. Just can't move. So I agree with that. Instead, black didn't do that. Black played a6. I probably wouldn't have considered. So, okay, then castles. Okay, now the next move, he doesn't say it's bad, but I don't like it. And he said g5 is the best with similar play to the last variation. Black played a move that I tell my students never to play in openings where there's no c pawns, like here. He played queen c7. Now the purpose is to unpin the knight, I guess. But the queen on the c file will get harassed by a rook, so I don't like that square for my queen. Although he played a6, I guess that's why he played a6, so I can't play knight b5 later. All right. If he plays queen to d7 and a white knight comes to b6 or c5, that could be annoying. And white played queen d1. Okay, I mean, the queen's sort of done its job on b3. It's not going to attack anything else. Knight g6, bishop g3 looks good to me. And we turn the page. Okay, Bob Seger style. Or as the kids of the chess camp would say, who? Yeah. Yeah. One kid in the chess camp never heard of anybody. I could have named anybody. I'm like, do you know Iris? And she's like, no. I'm like, that's you. And she's like, what? Yeah. Never heard of nobody. Okay, so bishop e7. Bishop e, oh, it's bishop g3. Okay, then bishop e7. Rook c1, as I indicated, the black queen isn't really well placed here because of the rook. And I guess black agreed, because black played queen to d8. So these guys are better than me. They play queen d1 and queen d8. They retreat more than I do. Motivated by a concern about the imminent advance of the white pawn to h4 and h5. Wow. More than white playing rook c1. White just played rook c1. I mean, he might be right that that's why black should do it, but I don't think black was thinking about h4, h5 when white played rook c1. Not the kind of people I play. So, yeah, queen d8 sort of does double duty then. It avoids the rook, and it's defending h4 so we don't get harassed. All right. Bishop d3, which we normally don't want to play. But he played anyway because he probably didn't know what else to do. Got to do something. It's hard for white to move his pieces anywhere. And they traded on d3, I believe. Yep. And black finally castled. So far, nobody's hung all their pieces. What kind of game is this? Don't worry, I have a game somebody sent me, and we're back on track. And I wouldn't look at the game normally because every move is not good. But the guy wrote like something funny at the beginning in a preamble. So then I was like, all right, that's good enough for me. Knight e2. Okay, that's a chess move. It's not one I would make. Knight b4. He says, that's bad. You should play b6. Oh, queen b6 first. Yeah, b6. Yeah, okay, queen b6 makes some sense. Yeah, puts pressure on white's pawns. But he played knight b4. We call that a Ken West move. I never would have called that a Ken West move before today, but we were looking at puzzles earlier. You know, grandmasters at the chess club like to look at puzzles, me and Ken West. And he suggested a move, and I said, why'd you make that move? And he said, it attacks something. So that's knight b4 attacks two things. It's amazing. Okay, so white could play queen b3 or queen b1. He chose b1. b1's a retreat, so I agree. And then he kicked out the knight, and the knight retreated. Now the players drew by repetition. White played a2, and black played knight b4, and so forth. Oh, wait, we can't do that. Now white played rook c3, I assume, to double rooks. Wow, that rook disappeared. Maybe I was wrong. I guess I was incorrect. Yeah, I still did it. All right, and it says, this is no good, I'm the worst. So he doesn't like his own move. Now you'll remember earlier, black played queen d8, and he explained that was to prevent h4, even though white just played rook c1, so I don't believe that. But black's queen is not on d8 anymore, which sort of proves he never saw h4 coming. And so he says, I should play h4, h5. Rawr. Okay, if you play h5, black's going to play knight h8 or hang a piece. Equally likely in this club. And I like to play knight h8, so I'd be pretty happy. All right, and yeah, I agree with h4. That sounds reasonable. Okay, rook c3 to me looks reasonable. I wouldn't complain about that. Okay, rook c8, rook c1. I've never seen such a good game. This looks like two GMs are playing. You know, not good GMs, like British GMs. Okay, now knight a5. And now he gives himself another question mark. And I agree. Hooray. Okay, it is Ken West approved, though, because he attacked the knight. So that's Ken West. Yeah, attacked the knight. Okay, now when black played knight c4, when black played knight a5, he probably had two ideas. Trade all the rooks, because people like to trade for some reason, and play knight c4, because the knight's good on c4. And at some point, if black does play knight c4, probably later in the game, white could play b3. Maybe not now, but maybe sometime and soon, right? Especially if white was Capablanca. You got that? No? Sometime soon and soon? No? Ugh. This is what I deal with here. They don't know the movie Casablanca, and they don't they don't do nothing.
I thought you said Capablanca.
I did.
Okay.
It seems we're not familiar with puns. We shall now move along to the next move. Okay, so white played b4, and now knight c4. It's hard to attack the knight with a pawn unless you cheat or you're playing bug house. So when you put all your pawns on one color, which both sides did, then the other color is sort of weak. Now the difference is white played bishop d3 earlier and traded his white squared bishop. So when white put all of his pawns on one color, which used to be dark and now is green, then he would like a white squared bishop to control the other color, which he traded. Conversely, black's pawns are all on white squares, and so he has a dark squared bishop, so he's happy controlling the dark squares. So if white could cheat and play knight c5, which is the equivalent of black's knight c4, not only can later black play b6, maybe not now, but sometime and soon, you'll regret it. No? Nothing? Ugh. Do you have a wall I could talk to? I get more feedback. Oh, okay. Ooh, that wall has people on it. Okay. So with the dark squared bishop and the possibility of b6 and the fact that knight c5 is incredibly illegal, this seems like black's doing well. Because the bishop on g3 is a little suspicious. Okay. So this looks nice, knight c4. Now he played rook 1 c2. Maybe he wants to Alekhine gun it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he did, so I'll be right. Yeah, he did, okay. Now, he doesn't like black's next move. He says black should play a5, attacking the queen side. I agree. But he played b5, solidifying his knight, which he doesn't like, but I like that too. So. And then queen c1, as I suggested. Okay, and then black moved his knight away and hung all his rooks. No, that's what you would do. Now he writes a5 is still stronger. I agree. a5 puts tremendous pressure on white's queen side. Yeah, I agree. And he played rook c6. I guess he wants to do the same thing white did. Now, luckily, there's another side of the board. Otherwise, this game would be sort of boring. And white played h4. Now we're talking. Yeah. Yeah, now if we play h5, we can, get some pressure going. Knight f4. And then he wrote at last. Okay, and I'd make a joke, but you wouldn't get it. So, okay.
We remember earlier.
So h5 was given as better by the annotator, but he played queen to d8. And now black claimed to draw because he played queen d8 3 times. And unfortunately, Dr. Morris was the arbiter, so.
Right, I was here.
You were here for that? I mean, there was a huge argument in the club a few days ago, and they didn't agree what happened. So they wanted my ruling, and I said, you guys don't agree what happened. I could rule on what you said and what you said, but there could be different rulings. Yeah, one guy was like, I made the same move 3 times, it's a draw. And then the guy said, what? And then they argued about that. They were both wrong, too. That was my ruling. You're both wrong. That seemed the most likely. Okay, h5. Now, you know me, I like to retreat. But knight h4 is not a retreat, so he played that. Although that move smells a little because it's an h4. Who brought the cricket? Okay. No, it wasn't really a cricket. It was a cricket phone, which is worth even less than a cricket. Who?
We do have a chemist downstairs on the h4 joke.
Who?
A new member's a chemist,
Yeah?
so he got.
Are you sure?
Right here is making fun of ammonium salts.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Are you a new member?
No,
Now, which smells worse, NH4 or NH3?
NH3 by a long shot.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. That's why but nobody played NH3. What do you want me to do? I got to make whatever joke I can. Okay. So, what did I do? Okay, so Queen F4 dubious, according to the player with white. He doesn't like his own moves. White insists on keeping his septic bishop board on G3. Wow, I didn't write that. Also, English is his second language.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Surprisingly enough, this very bad bishop is about to become the protagonist of White's resurrection on the king side. So he's complaining he should have traded his bishop, then he says it was great. So I don't know. It was indolence. So I'm guessing he's saying he should take that because his bishop isn't too good here. Okay.
It's inefficacious.
He played rook F3. I just did a Jonathan Schrantz there. I played queen F3 without looking at the score. I just had an issue with him where he pre-moved and that wasn't the right move. Now we're threatening here. Now his comments make a lot of sense. Now queen need to understand. Now he's claiming white should play here, but white retreated. I can't complain about retreating. And then he went back. Rook FC3. Okay, no, yeah. Okay, now black made a bad move. A5 is still the best move according to him. And I assume he analyzed it with Yasser, so a long time ago. But now he did the Popeye attack, which I just made up as I was saying it. He had all he could stands. He can't stands no more. They did a lot of maneuvering around. And he looked at his watch. He's like, time to lose. Because earlier in the game, nobody blundered anything or did anything. So you guys were bored. That means it's a good game. And black's like, that's enough of that. So he played the most exciting move. Right? Can you guys find an exciting move for black that doesn't lose all his pieces? There's a lot of exciting moves that do lose all your pieces. But one that just like doesn't lose anything, but it's exciting.
F5?
F5. Yeah, you're the man. Yeah, that's what he did. I guess he wants to take that. Okay? And F5 is exciting. So I could take en passant, but he didn't. He played bishop F4. And he writes, I was tempting black to do this. So black did do that, which I think I would do too. And then he sacked everything to make it really exciting for you guys. And then after here, he played bishop H6 exclam according to him. Okay, and he might be right because black's pieces are all on the queen side. So if I take with the queen and I got knight F4 and rook G3, yeah, even this rook can get into the fun. So he was hoping black would take that pawn so he could start attacking and sacrificing. Okay, so now, according to the annotator, black should have played the brilliant knight takes E5, confusing everyone. A likely continuation would be, the rook's hanging on C2, so okay. Now the queen is hanging, so these moves make sense. Now the knight's hanging, so knight G6. Now the queen's hanging, so queen B8 check. Now all of white's pieces are hanging, his queen and his bishop. So he gives queen G3, attacking this knight. And he says, during the game I missed everything. Luckily for me, so did my opponent. Yeah, the truth hurts. And he says white's down a pawn but has compensation. Yesser probably likes black because black's up a pawn. Okay, well, knight takes E5 is an interesting tactic. Discovered attack on the rook. Okay. Instead, black played my favorite move. How many favorite moves do I have? Bishop F8, yeah. Defense. I can't complain about that, even if it's wrong. Queen G5. And I was telling a student this, but I won't say which one, because I'll tell you like in a month and a half. There's a reason why I don't want to tell you now. And I said, sometimes when you're attacking and it doesn't work, it works anyway. So, this is probably going to be a good example of this game. Because a lot of times when you're attacking, the engine says, oh, easy defense. Then the human you're playing gets mated. So, Ken West, that would never happen to him. Never. Okay, so he claims knight takes E5 is still the best. And then he gives very long variation. Rook takes rook, knight takes rook. I mean, it just wins a pawn. But instead, he played rook here, defending the second rank even more. White attacked with another piece. Morphy would be proud. A lot of pieces attacking. And now he says black makes another bad move. If all your moves are bad, you might lose. Right? Plays here, and now he plays a brilliant tactical shot. I'm not even sure if I like it, but he likes it, so no. Okay, he played here. Rawr. Rawr. Okay, and black took. And now black didn't take the bishop. He writes, if king takes bishop, knight e6, knight c7, white's better. Okay. I don't know, maybe not. I have advice for my students. When you can take a bishop, take it. That's my advice. So I would take that bishop, and if the computer said I was losing, I would still take the bishop. But he defended his e-pawn. I don't agree with that. Isn't white a pawn up now? Right? So I would take the bishop because then I wouldn't be down a pawn. That's my reasoning. Okay, now exclam, rook c c3. And now that taking the bishop loses, now he took it. And he writes that's suicidal, but doesn't give it a question mark because he wanted to win. He writes the best move is bishop g5 exclam. And then he gives insane position analysis. But now he takes it because he defended against knight e6. So he was all happy. And then they agreed to it. No. Rook check. King moves. Rook check. Now it's exciting. King e8. Rook check. King d7. Double up on the bubble up. Rook e8. Knight g6. Knight g6 gets an exclamation mark. Was there another move that you would ever consider? I guess I consider knight h5 and go here, but knight g6 without thinking, yeah. He took this very important pawn. They don't know I was kidding. Yeah. That doesn't seem very helpful. Now, do you think white should trade rooks or not trade rooks? What do you think? Yeah, because mating the guy is easier when you have more rooks. Yeah. So knight e7, rook e7. Man, I'd rather resign. Resigning was better. And then rook here, threatening two different checkmates. And black resigned. Wow, black took that bishop when white was mating him instead of taking it when he was like in an endgame that was too easy for rook. So that wasn't good defense. But he had a good excuse. He claims they were both in time trouble. So, yeah. That was an interesting game because it actually went the way it was supposed to go. At this opening, normally white's attacking on the king's side and black's winning on the queen's side, and that's what happened. And then according to Bobby Fischer, mating the guy's better than winning on the queen's side, right? But Fischer was crazy, so maybe he's wrong. Well, you could be crazy and right too, right?
So if the king would have taken the bishop earlier, he probably would have lasted a bit longer.
Well, he's claiming that white has a better endgame, but I'm not sure I agree because I'm old. Like he likes white here. And then he actually gave some move, king g8. I don't know if I play king g8, but okay. And he says here white's better because it looks like this pawn's weak, right? But if my king could go to e6 or g6, that would be better, right? So I'm not sure I agree with king g8. I don't think I agree with it at all. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is what should have happened. Then, he might not put the game in if he didn't win. So it's good that this happened. But yeah, I would never not take the bishop and then take it when the guy's mating me. That seems like a bad idea. Yeah. But they were in time trouble, so yeah. Okay, so that game was our club member Orlando, who's been to all my lectures except this one where I showed his game. So that'll show somebody, I'm not sure who. Yeah. So that was a good game. That's actually pretty good. Okay, I don't like good games. I like the game we're looking at now. Okay, definitely looking at this one. This is my favorite game. So the guy writes, blah, 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 blah. This game will force Finegold to flip the board, which is a nice bonus. So let's flip the board. Yeah, because if Mike Kummer shows up, he'll be like, wait, what's going on here? Okay, then he writes a lot of other stuff. And if you remember our lesson, j'accuse. Yeah, we talked about this, like exactly what happens. And then the guy sends in a game. So maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. No, but the way the game went and what we talked about the Icelandic gambit.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where you win the world championship in Iceland, then go there to die. That's the Icelandic gambit. Recommended by? There you go. You guys aren't as dumb as you look or seem to be. Your best tests indicate. Okay, so the game went E4, D5, takes here as discussed. Yeah. Okay, now he doesn't say what the Icelandic gambit is, or he did and I didn't read it, which is equally likely. But he means after C4, the old move was C6. And then everybody plays the pan-off with white, and some people, pan-off Caro-Kann, and some people play knight C3, and then do this, and this is also interesting. Okay. But the Icelandic gambit, which was invented about 20 years ago, is E6. And now, if white wants to, he can transpose into an exchange French with C4 by playing this, and that's considered to be nothing for white. Or he could take a pawn, which is usually how you play chess, you take pawns. And a lot of people who play gambits like this position for black. And people who like to accept gambits like it for white. Therefore, it's equal. Okay, so this is a very interesting gambit, but there's not a lot of super GM games. Anyway, he was hoping to do that. His opponent played knight c3, which is legal, barely. And after this, white played a move I've never seen before. And I've been watching chess for a long time. I've seen queen f3, I've seen knight e4, but the main move is bishop c4. That's what, you know. Yeah. And in Bughouse, this is very common. And then you play d4 here. Okay, this is a common Bughouse position. But he played knight d5, which I don't know, because white has nothing developed now, so that's weird. Okay, and after d4, black played very aggressive e5. I'm not sure if I would play that, but in fact, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably play knight c6. Okay, so he took. I'm not sure if I would take the queen or the pawn. Took the pawn. I don't know. I mean, queen e2 is obviously equal, but white played for the advantage. And black played bishop b4 check, which is very interesting because it looks like c3 you can take it, but I don't think you can take it. So if that's the case, bishop b4 check is pretty silly because I could play c3, and then if you try to like fork my king and rook, I go here. So, oh. So if the game had gone c3, maybe he wouldn't have sent the game in. Or maybe he would have won another brilliant way. And I tell all my beginning students, which are about the same level as you guys, if your opponent can check you, or if you can check somebody, they block with a pawn, and then you move it away, like don't do that. Even though in the Scotch we do that sometimes, but you guys don't know that. So I don't like bishop b4 check. Okay, white played bishop d2, which is not good. And black could have taken on b2, but he was probably worried about his king on e8. Probably shouldn't be worried about it because he can castle the next move. So he castled. And knight f3, and now you take on b2 because that's why you played bishop b4 check, I think. And it's a pawn and it's hanging. But he played here. So yeah, much worse things happen later. Yeah. These are the kind of games I prefer than the last one. This game just, moves don't make a lot of sense. Okay, white castled, defending his b pawn. And now he played queen b2. And white thought it was mate, so he gave up. No, none of that happened, but in my camp it happened every game. And it'll happen next week in my camp. Ugh. Also, for those of you who watch a lot of my videos, it'll happen in the 1 o'clock class every. So bishop f5, that's legal. Bishop d3 is legal. Bishop e6, because he likes to move his bishop a lot. Don't really understand that. Knight g5, threatening h7. Bishop f5. So yeah, you can see why he submitted the game, to amuse you guys. Okay. What's funny is, there was a game that I show a lot between Morphy and Doofus. Morphy's black. And in the opening, early middle game, white plays knight g5, bishop d3, and black plays bishop f5, stopping the h7 threat. Except here, black moved his bishop every move. But Morphy did it once. So. Okay, and then bishop c4, which I think I agree with, maybe. Knight c6, a very unusual thing to do, moving a piece that hasn't moved yet. I'm very confused. Rook he1, knight e5. Now we're talking, move the piece that just moved. Okay, now some very, very, very suspicious things happened, which is funny for us. I don't even know who's better here, probably black. Although I don't know. Okay, he played b3, and I want to explain something to you guys. Don't play b3. Did you understand not playing b3? So, I mean, bishop b3 makes a lot more sense. The bishop's attacked. b3 doesn't really defend the bishop. And I have a rule for my students who play b3 and g3 and b6 and g6. You have to put a bishop there. So what white should have done after b3 is put a bishop on b2. That's what he should have done. But that's not legal. Still should have done it. There's pieces everywhere here. So you could find a bishop on any board, right? Yeah, don't be confused. The players aren't good. Rook where?
Why can't you just take the bishop and mate him?
He's talking about earlier. You're talking about now.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Claudio thinks we should play rook e5, queen e5, knight f7, threatening knight takes queen. And then I guess I'd move my queen. I don't know where. I'd move it somewhere, f6. That's somewhere. But Claudio wants me to do this because Claudio wants to do that and have everybody clap. So clap. Claudio, he didn't suggest queen d8, but he meant to. After this, you're going to clap less, but that's too bad. Yeah, and I still think this is probably good for white. Oh, no, it's good for black, isn't it? Man, even your brilliancy didn't work. Come on. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. But anyway, if that worked, they wouldn't see that. So even at the end, they wouldn't see it. Okay, so he played b3, confusing my audience. Okay, I'm not confused because I teach chess camp a lot. So that move was legal. So that confuses me. So b3 is one of the worst moves ever because the black queen can, take advantage of that. Okay, but we're not done by a long shot. Both sides were winning later, and the game was 2 moves long. And I'm not kidding. It's all true. They're all lies, but they're entertaining lies. And in the end, isn't that the real truth? The answer is no. Okay, so h6 was played, which is funny because I think that also wins because I'm a threatening. Okay, white played knight e4, attacking the black queen with check, pausing for effect, and neither player seemed to notice that. Because now black played the move that was given earlier, knight takes c4. So it seems to me knight takes queen check would be reasonable. And then white would win, and then black wouldn't send the game in. But he took back. And then he played mate. Oh no, he took the knight, I'm sorry. Yeah, what am I, crazy? Yeah, he took the knight, and then he played mate. And in the notes to the game, he didn't really mention that part. Like the last 4 moves weren't talked about. He was like in the opening, what?
You can't make fun of any of my games anymore.
I can, but it's not easy. Yeah, well, that wasn't my game. Yeah. So, yeah, something. So white didn't take a queen with check, and black didn't play mate in 1 here. He took the knight, and then he played mate in 1. Yeah. Okay, and that was the game that was submitted. You don't want to see the games he didn't submit. Those were not at that level. Okay, I like that game, and I normally wouldn't show it, but he wrote a funny preamble, so I had to show it. Yeah, I looked at another game, but I was getting sick. So let's look at a game I didn't rated blitz game. Ugh. Also, these are the games John Schron said were the best. He didn't put the other games in, so that was one of the better games. Because I didn't do it. Yeah. A 26 move draw? Who would submit that? Why? Let's find out. I played against the WIM. I got a winning position and blundered into a draw. All right, let's have a look. Yeah, I remember John said this wasn't the best game of all time. I think it was the second best game of all time. So he was white, so I had to flip the board again. And yeah, it was a perfect game. Okay, so it was a Sicilian. The submitter is white, but he drew, so he didn't submit. Okay, I've had this position today. I was playing a blitz game with former U.S. champion Stuart Rachels, and I played e6. But this guy played bishop d7, which is also a move. f4 is legal. Rook c8 is the point of bishop d7. Okay, queen d2, and now you take the knight, and white's played queen d2 and queen d4. Queen a5. Yeah, black is playing normal here. Yeah. Okay, now white played very aggressively. Rawr, e5, rawr. Okay, and then takes. That is dangerous for both sides. I mean, off the top of my head, knight e4 looks interesting. Then if queen e4, rook c3, then bishop d2 probably wins. So I resign. Okay, so knight g4. And now he did a, what do you call it? Interference. Although it looks like he didn't know he did an interference. Yeah, e6. I guess if you play bishop e6, bishop b5 check is annoying, right? So she took with the f pawn. I would probably take this. And I assume the only reason not to take it is rook c3. And then I don't know what's happening here. Oh, I have queen e5 check here. Okay, so that's probably okay for black. So he played h4, recommended by Arjun. Yeah. Okay, then e5, defending the knight. h6, takes. So this seems like black's a pawn up and better, although he was claiming I got a winning position. Well, not here. All right, e6, castles looks good. Bishop b4 looks good. Knight e4 looks interesting. Queen a2 looks good. Knight d6 looks interesting. If I move my king, I'm threatening queen a1 mate, right? Yeah. So I guess I'd move my king. Not sure where. King e7, knight takes, rook takes. I'd probably play king e7 because that queen a1 mate looks pretty good. Okay, she took, which looks okay also. So black's up 2 pawns, and white hasn't moved these pieces yet. So I would assume this is good for black. King e7, queen takes e5, rook h d8. You can't take this pawn because the rook's hanging. And he played bishop to b5. I don't know, I can't take the rook. I mean, I can take the rook. So what if I take the rook? What am I missing as usual? Also, this just wins immediately, right? That looks good. And this looks good. It all looks good to me. I don't know. White might have a perpetual, but I doubt it. So, okay, so I like black no matter what black does. Black played bishop b5, rook d8, queen g7. And I guess if I go to the d file, I could check and win this rook. So the game ended like this. And then draw. But I don't understand the preamble, which says I got a winning position and blundered into a draw. Wasn't white always worse? I don't know. I didn't put an engine on it, but I didn't ever like white's position ever. I liked that I moved 1 or 2. Then after that, I didn't like it so much. So it seems like black was winning and the bishop sack drew because black didn't play correctly. So I'll change the preamble slightly. Yeah. That's why WIM, not WGM. And I have like 3 or 4 jokes, and I can't make any of them. Because he might not edit them out, then I'll get in trouble. If you edit them out, I can make them, but you might not edit them out, and then yeah, so I'm not going to make those jokes. Okay. But they're good jokes. I'm not kidding. There's some good jokes. Yeah. All right, now what's happening? Leaving at 7. Wait, what's this picture? Oh, okay. That's a picture. Yeah. So since I'm catching a flight and it's 7:27, we're going to end the class. Am I catching a flight, Arjun? No. Correct. Very good. Did you bring Kit Kat? Yeah. Good answer. I didn't expect that. And my last question before the class ends is, what's Kit Kat backwards? Tactic. Now you're talking. All right. And on that note, with Arjun giving the correct answers. Where can I submit games? Submit games? You could send them to Ben Simon at no, I'm kidding. You go to info@stlouischessclub.org. Really? Wow, that was a random guess. And you could submit games, and then I won't look at them. Okay? Although I will look at them next week, but not the following week. It'll be looked at by Josh Friedel. I think so. Yeah. So there's one more week I'm doing this great class. Ow. Those air quotes really hurt your fingers. And then this is a funny day Thursday. Who knows what day it is where you are. But I teach this class, and then we do games you should learn by heart. These are games you should forget by heart. You should make sure you forget it. Otherwise, you'll, oh God, I lost because I remembered that game. Yeah, that was keep saying the games and good job. All right.